Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the English Dissident podcast. Today, I have my host, John Lawrence, with me from the National Housing Party. How are you doing today, John?
Good, thank you, Marcus. Good, thank you.
Good to hear. So today we have someone special on the channel who's been on GB News. He's made headwaves and he's running for mayor in Manchester. Nick Buckley, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. It's made of Greater Manchester. If you just say Manchester, you upset a couple of million people.
Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. I'm a southerner, you see, so not a northerner. But so could you tell us a little bit why you want to run as the mayor and everything?
Yep, sure. The simple answer is I'm sick of it. I'm sick of everything. I'm sick of the country. I'm sick of the way we run. I'm sick of the way our institutions are failing, services are failing. I'm sick that no one's happy, no one's patriotic. I'm sick that we have English people now saying this country's finished, this country's over. I'm thinking of moving to America or moving to Poland for a better life. And it's how did we get into such a mess? And the answer is it's taken decades. This hasn't happened overnight. It's not happened just because of Tony Blair. I'm sick of people blaming just Tony Blair. It was happening decades before that. And as an Englishman, if I don't stand up to be counted, if I don't stand up and start taking on my responsibility as a protector of this country, as a provider for this country, then who will? And if I don't do it, that means another Englishman will have to carry more of the load because I'm not doing my bit. And I'm sick of the cowardice of the men of this country. And that sounds a bit harsh, but it's true. And until we start taking back some of our responsibility and doing what needs to be done, then we're going to continue failing as a country. And that's why I'm standing for mayor, because there's certain things in Greater Manchester I can change, and I can change quite quickly. I can change the police. I can end homelessness. Well, not homelessness. I can end rough sleeping. I can start looking at some of our services and some of our institutions saying, you're failing. And I'm going to say that to the press. And I'm going to embarrass the CEO. I'm going to embarrass the chair. And I'm going to say, you need to resign because what you're doing isn't working. And that's why I'm standing. I want to be a disruptor because we can't carry on the way we're going.
Very good. I think we both agree with that. You've done some very interesting work in the past, haven't you? And then you were cancelled. You were involved in a charity, if I'm not wrong, and all that. Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Sure. So life's a journey. Life throws things at you, and it's an exciting journey if you take the opportunities that are offered to you. And this country continually gives you opportunities. So 20 years ago, I'd traveled around the world for a couple of years, came back in my 30s, and obviously signed on. I was unemployed, and it was like, right, what's the next stage of my life? And a leaflet came through the door from Manchester Council. Do you want a job in regeneration of East Manchester? That's where the City Stadium, the Manchester City Stadium is. They had millions to spend. I applied, got a job working for Manchester Council. And that led me into working with young people, stopping them getting involved in crime and causing antisocial behaviour. And I would say that's where my career began in my mid-30s. And then from there, I got promoted. And then from there, I ended up running Manchester City Centre for the council in terms of reducing crime and antisocial behaviour. And I was good at it. And then austerity kicked in 2011. My whole team was made redundant. So I took redundancy and said, you know what, I'm going to set a charity up to carry on this work. And I'm going to do it better because you're hampered working for a council. There's that much red tape, there's that much incompetence. You've got your hands tied behind your back all the time. So I invested my money and set a charity up to carry on working on the streets with kids, to try to show a better way of life, to try to show them where the opportunities are in this country. If 100,000 immigrants can come into this country every year and most of them get opportunities and make a success of their life and good for them, then why aren't the kids who are born in this country not taking those opportunities? And the simpler answer is we don't train our kids to spot those opportunities. We train our kids to be lazy, to be apathetic, to sign on, to criticize this country. That's what we train our kids to do. So I've been changing that on the streets for 2 decades. And the charity I set up is a multi-award winning now. We've won the national awards, regional awards, awards off the police, awards off government. The charity is absolutely fantastic. It's groundbreaking because we do the work nobody else wants to do because it's not sexy. It's hard work, and we have more failures than we have successes. And then 3 years ago, during lockdown, I'm working 10 hours a week, just keeping the charity ticking over. All my staff are on furlough. And I thought, I started writing blogs, more blogs than I usually write. So I wrote a blog about Black Lives Matter because they'd just come to national attention and they just had a mostly peaceful demonstration in London where 27 police officers needed hospital treatment. That's how peaceful that peaceful protest was. So I wrote a blog, not exposing Black Lives Matter, but just talking about their website, all the information they had on their official website, not a conspiracy theory website, not a right-wing website, but their own website. And I talked about how they want to defund the police, how they want to overthrow Western capitalism. And the phrase that upset me the most was, we want to disrupt the Western nuclear family. And I had to give that some thought. It's like, what the hell does that mean? I've not been to university. I'm not an academic. Disrupts the Western nuclear family. And all I could come up with was they want to remove more fathers out of the home. And that's when I went, not on my watch, mate. That's the biggest problem we've got in the UK, is a lack of fathers in the home. So I wrote a 700-word blog on their website. No, sorry, I didn't post it on their website, but it was about their website. Put it on my LinkedIn. For the first few days, first week, it was fine. Some people commented, some people disagreed with me, some people agreed with me. Hey, but that's what happens when you post a blog. And then someone copied the link and put it on Twitter. And then it went mental. I was then, within hours, I was accused of being a Nazi and a racist. A volunteer at the charity resigned and wrote to the board via email saying Nick's a Nazi. The board panicked. Somebody online set up a petition to have me fired from my own charity. That got 450 signatures, which isn't a lot, but believe me, at the time, that sounded like the world. It was like the world's against me. Maybe I've done something wrong here. The board panicked. And the board sacked me over email, a one-line email. Nick, you're terminated immediately. And that was it. My life was over. It was like, what am I going to do? And the first week I felt sorry for myself because, when that's natural, I'm human. I succumb to these weak feelings like we all can do. And after the first week, I decided, no, I'm not having this. I'm now Nick the Nazi. My life's over. 6 months before, I'd just been awarded an MBE off our late Queen. It's like, I've gone from an MBE to a Nazi in 6 months. That can't be right. So I'm out with a fight back, got help from the Mail on Sunday and the Free Speech Union, who are fantastic. And we looked at my contract and looked at what I said, and the solicitor involved said, there's no case to answer it. We wrote to the board of trustees, who were all personal friends of mine, by the way. I'd known them all over a decade. We wrote to them and we said, this is not on, and Nick Buckley is going to sue you all independently and personally, unless you all resign en masse. That's the only way you're going to get out of a legal action. Within 18 hours of them getting that email, they all resigned. And the reason why they resigned is they didn't have skin in the game. They didn't care about me. They didn't care about the charity. They didn't care about the young people on the streets. They didn't care about the girls I've stopped being raped. They didn't care about any of that. What did they care about? They cared about themselves. And suddenly, they had skin in the game. Nick's going to sue me. I could lose my house. So they all just resigned. They were cowards. And that was the most upsetting bit about this, is they went through this and I went through this for nothing. If they'd have spoken to me, we could have got through this together, because I beat the mob online and they should have known I'd have beat the mob. They should have known I'd beat them. They've known me decades. I'm not a weak person. So It was all for nothing. So they resigned. I came back to the charity. And I didn't win. If people say you won, Nick, I didn't win. It was horrendous. I lost friends. I had to evaluate my life. I'm a different person than I was then. My life's different to what it was then. I'm glad it happened because I have no regrets. I never do regrets. What's the point of regrets? You can't change anything. You don't have a time machine. You have to learn from what's happened, try to not make the same mistakes, but then try to find the opportunities in that new situation. And I found those opportunities. I'd like to think I have anyway. So in a nutshell, that's probably why I'm here today. That's why I'm running for mayor. And that's why you two gents are speaking to me.
I think you're doing a very important role. I mean, you've actually done some stuff that politicians should be doing without even ever wanting to become a politician. Because I actually watched an interview or a speech you done, I believe last month, and you said you never even wanted to become a politician. It's just the fact you feel like you have to. And to go back to what you were saying about the people on the board and everything, if they actually believed with what their convictions were, what they were doing instead of cancel culture, then they would have stuck by their guns, but clearly they don't, you know. The problem is we've had a very long march through the institutions and everything like that, and that this will take some time to correct, because obviously, like you said, you're going to have to sort out the police force, you're going to have to sort out the education system. You've got a lot of work on your hands and everything. What would be the first thing you would try to correct and everything? You know, you obviously have a big job when you get elected and everything like that. What would be your first three things that you would try to fix as mayor?
The first thing would be the police, because believe it or not, the mayor of Greater Manchester doesn't have that much power. He's not the mayor of London. The London mayor has a lot more power. The Greater Manchester mayor doesn't. But he is fully in charge of Greater Manchester Police. That's the only thing. And Greater Manchester Fire Service. They're the only two things he's fully in charge of. He's the boss of the chief constable. So my number one aim will be the police. I've worked with the police for 2 decades. I used to be based in police stations as a council manager. I've trained police officers. I've created award-winning projects with the police to reduce crime. I've advised 3 different prime ministers on crime reduction. I know what I'm talking about. So the police will be my big priority. And when you think about the police are important. I'm a big supporter of the police. I'm also a big critic of the police as well, of the way it's been going. But I'm a big supporter and believer in the police. If we're to have a free society with free English men and women living the lives they want to live, then we need guardians of that, and those guardians are called the police, but not the version we have at the moment, where they'd rather police your tweets than police the streets, where we have things called hate crimes, where we have things called non-crime hate incidents, where the police can say, you can't say that. And my answer is, in this country, as an Englishman, I can say anything I want to say. You have the right to criticize me. You have the right to challenge me on what I say. Of course you do. But I have the right to say anything I want to say. Otherwise, I'm not a free man, am I? Otherwise, I'm living by someone else's rules, and I'm having someone else like a puppet master pulling the strings on what I can say and what I can do. And I'm not prepared to live like that. So I'll be fixing the police. How will I fix the police? In a nutshell, I'll be stopping all the woke nonsense day one. So on day one, the Black officers group, the Muslim officers group, the LGBT officers group, all disappear day one. They will not exist in Greater Manchester Police. Those groups can still be run by individual officers in their own time, but they will not be given any police time to run those groups, no police resources to run those groups, and they will not have a direct line to senior management when they come out with an idea. They can float an idea to the police, just like anyone can float an idea to the police. But the days of them having power and influence will be gone on day one. Then I'll be looking at things like recruitment. At the moment, Greater Manchester Police and all the police forces across the country do not recruit on merit. I'll be stopping that. I only want officers who are recruited on merit. That will result in less female police officers. That will result probably in less black officers and Asian officers and gay officers. I don't care. And I do not apologise for that. Because when you're being mugged by a violent gang in Manchester city centre, I want the best officers coming to rescue you. I don't want a 4'9", 8 stone, 7 stone woman running to help you in a police's uniform if she can't take down 3 guys in one go. Because that's what this comes down to. It comes down to virtue signalling from public services. I don't want virtue signalling. I want the best person for the job, because the police is an important job and I want them to protect you, catch criminals, hammer criminals, and put the fear of God into criminals. And if that requires 6'5" men, or even 6'5" white straight men, well, that's who we'll employ. So I'll be looking at recruitment. And then we'll be looking at promotion within Greater Manchester Police. To get promoted within the police, at the interview panel, you've got to come up with a woke idea. You've got to come up with an idea that ticks diversity boxes, equality boxes, inclusion boxes. So the police system at the moment for promotion promotes the most woke officers to the next level, who then look for more woke officers and promotes them. So it's a fulfilling negative circle of senior officers promoting more woke officers. That stops day one. We're going to look at recruitment, we're going to look at promotion, and we're going to look at the skills we're going to promote people on. And it's going to be things like on honesty, integrity, knowledge of the law, patriotism. These are the things, competence, merit, qualifications. They're the things we're promoting people within the police. That's going to take a decade to lead to big change, because those people have got to move up the ranks, but we'll be starting that on day one. That's how we fix the police. My next priority is going to be rough sleeping. Again, I've been involved in rough sleeping for over 2 decades. For Manchester City Council, I should chair the multi-agency panel for rough sleepings in Manchester. And they were attended by the NHS, the police, drug services, council, lots of other services attended those meetings. And I chaired them 20 years ago. At that point, we had 17 people sleeping rough in Manchester. 17. We knew them all by their first name. Today in Manchester City Centre, the Manchester itself, we're probably looking at a couple of hundred rough sleeping. How things have changed. Also in Greater Manchester 2 decades ago, when I ran it, there was no begging. No one begged in Manchester City Centre. Can anyone who goes to Manchester City Centre believe that ever happened? No begging. That's because we tackled it. So we'll be tackling rough sleeping by saying to all agencies and saying to the public, this is disgraceful. You should be embarrassed. We all should be ashamed in Greater Manchester that we allow our fellow citizens to live and die in squalor, in entries, covered in rats, lying in excrement. We should be ashamed. You should be ashamed if you live in Greater Manchester. You really should be ashamed of yourself for never holding your politicians accountable. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, what can I do? Well, have you ever voted to your local councillor? Have you ever voted to your MP? Have you ever said to them, I'm not voting for you while my fellow citizens are dying on the streets? Have you ever said that to them? Well, the answer is no, you haven't. Because if you said that to them, they would have tackled this issue a long time ago. Because all politicians care about is votes. And the reason why they don't tackle this issue, there's no votes in it. Homeless people don't vote. People who do vote don't care about homelessness. They think they do, and they'll tell you they do. But when it comes to voting, they want cheaper taxes, they want more wokery, or they want a cycle lane, or they want something else that affects them. People don't vote to affect somebody else, and that's our shame. So I'll be ending rough sleeping, and how we'll be doing that is we'll be stopping begging in Greater Manchester over several months. Anybody who sits down to beg will be moved on. That sounds harsh, but when you're earning money as a beggar, you spend it all on drugs. The more drugs you take, the more damaged you become. Then you're less likely to take help and support of the council, because you're trapped in a 4-hour cycle of I need to beg for money for drugs because I need drugs in 4 hours. I can't take help and support because if I take help and support, who's going to give me drugs in 4 hours? I've got to work and earn money for it by begging. So we break that cycle of begging for money for drugs. Then we open up some warehouses across Manchester and Greater Manchester. We fill them with garden sheds, and each garden shed is an independent living pod, a bed, storage, TV. And we say to people, there and then on the streets, you've got a bed now. Come with us. Here's a hostel. If you don't take it, that's fine. We're just going to move you on. And we're going to make your life uncomfortable until you take that bed. Because it's not an option to live and die in Greater Manchester. You may think you have a right to do this, but I'm telling you, you're mentally ill. You're not thinking straight. And as a compassionate society, we need to wrap our arms around people who are mentally ill, who are killing themselves slowly with drugs and by living on the streets. That's not a lifestyle choice. Don't tell me it's a lifestyle choice that they're dying on our streets. It isn't a choice. It's like saying to someone slitting their wrists, slit your wrists if you want, mate. It's a lifestyle choice. No, it's not. It's suicide. And living on the streets is suicide. And I'm not prepared to accept it. So we'll get these people into those hostels and we'll overcome all the excuses and all the barriers that stop them taking that help. And some of the barriers are, I've got a dog, and your hostels don't take dogs, do they? Well, my hostels will take dogs. We'll have kennels. How can you refuse someone help because they've got a dog? But that's what we do at the moment in some of our hostels, don't take dogs. It's like, are you stupid? And we've got to realise that rough sleeping and homelessness is a multi-billion-pound industry. Why would you want to solve rough sleeping and homelessness when it's your job and your career and your gold-plated pension? What incentives is there for you to solve this problem? And the answer is no incentives. That's why no one's solving it. I want to solve it. And if I put myself out of a job by solving it, fantastic. I don't want to be a politician anyway. I just want to improve my country and stop my fellow citizens dying. And then other rough sleepers will say, I can't take drugs or alcohol in your hostels. It's like, well, you can in my hostels, mate. There'll be, you will have certain limits. Like if we see you taking drugs, you'll be arrested because they're still illegal, mate. We're not changing the law. They're still illegal. But if you quietly inject, because that's what you need to get through the day, that's what you need to do. We'll tackle your drug issue next week once we've got you settled in a bed, because then you're easier to work with. If it takes you taking drugs in our hostel for the next week to get you off the streets, I'm up for that. And the reason why we don't do that now is because if that person ODs and dies in a council hostel, the council will be pilloried by the press. They died in your hostel. What I'll be saying is, I take full responsibility for this as mayor. The buck stops with me, not the hostel, not the council staff. It stops with me because I said this is what I wanted. I take full responsibility. And I would rather them die in a bed in a hostel than die in an entry covered in rats. And it's only by getting them off the streets can we save their lives. And one or two may die in a hostel, but you know what? They probably would have died on the streets anyway the same week because they're that sick and that ill. And the reason why we don't do that now is because the top of the council are scared stiff of bad press. And they put their careers, their reputation and their pensions ahead of fellow citizens dying in entries. Again, I'm not a career politician. I'm here to do what's right. I'm here to do the heavy lifting. I'm here to put things on the right path so other people can come after me and carry on this work. So I don't mind if this ruins my political career. I don't want one anyway. They're the two main things I'll be looking at from day one.
Wow, honestly, some of them things are really good. I mean, Pat, the other member of my party, always goes on about the welfare state, and we're big believers in the nuclear family. Our family values are being broken up, and what I've noticed is the rape gangs. When you look at it, it's a lot of broken families. So when you get a wedge in, you can break that family up initially, You can easily target the kids, the parents. You know, you can easily target all the. And I've seen this across the country, Nick. Rochdale, Oldham, Telford, Rotherham. This is what I've seen. And yeah, and Black Lives Matter having on the website they want to destroy the nuclear family. It's just terrible. And we know as well that you know, the better family is a mum and a dad. We know that families without dads, the kids have a good percentage of getting into crime and antisocial behaviour. These are general figures that everyone should know this. Everyone should know this. Going on to police, I mean, you know, I'm like you, Nick. I want to have faith in the police, and I did have faith in the police. And I'm a big believer of the police, but you know, at the moment, they're politically driven. What the Labour Party says in Manchester, the police do, and they do as the bidding, and they shouldn't do. And you know, but on the other hand, I don't just blame an immigrant. I'm the biggest critic of the police. I said in the mayor's question time in Oldham, I said the mayors will all be crooks, sex offenders, and gangsters. So I said to him, Nick, to 2 chief constables, absolutely disgraceful. Sarah Everard had just been killed in London, and I went on about recruitment because they do the box tick to get people in positions and stuff like that. The police and men of old were policemen, men like that, not little women at 4'11", Bangladeshi women who wouldn't be able to tackle any kind of grown man or anything like that. I'm a big believer like that, but box ticking and the woke ideology is well took over the police on that scale, I would say.
Yeah.
And
one question I do have for you, Nick, is I know most likely what your answer would be, but I didn't know if I heard you say it. Would you be able to stop illegal migrants from getting into hotels and house residents instead? Obviously, the homeless and everything. Could you fight against that, or is that something that would be higher up than someone yourself would be able to do?
So they're all Home Office decisions. So it's all organised by the Home Office. So I won't have the power to veto any of that. What I will have the power, and I'll be using this on many, many topics, is I can shine a light on it. I can say to the Home Office, I can go to the press, I can say, in Greater Manchester, we don't want this. I can say to the hotel, which are normally chains, so I can say to the hotel regional manager, national manager, this goes ahead, and you start taking illegal immigrants, which are nearly all fighting age men in Greater Manchester, I will damage your reputation as a chain of hotels. But you've got the Mayor of Greater Manchester saying to people, don't use any of these chains of hotels because they're not on your side. These are the sort of things you can do as there because you've got the publicity to do. You know, the chance I can even like try to take the Home Office to court because you know we'll have money in the coffers to do these sort of things. So all those things are open, but I don't want to give people the wrong impression that I can veto these things. I can't veto it, but I can be the voice of the public saying we don't want this, and I can embarrass the government quite a bit on many of these things.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something what needs sorting out and everything. You know, like I said earlier, if anyone gives this guy any grief, I've actually been in a situation of being homeless, and I actually agree with everything what this man has said so far. So yeah, there is a big problem with people who won't actually take rooms in hotels and everything, but more times than not, most people don't get offered rooms because obviously there's people from different nations coming in who don't belong here, and they pass through France and everything, and they don't get offered a place. Like most English people don't get offered a room or anything, you know. It's always these illegal migrants who haven't ever paid into the system and everything like that. And if they do, they get put in decent hotels, when someone like myself got put into a hotel with mold and everything in it, and a place that you just wouldn't want to live. Obviously it's good to live somewhere, but it's not really livable conditions, really, you know. The government need to put other people first before our own, which as someone who's paid into the tax system for years, it kind of annoys you, but there you go.
I can imagine it does. And the issue there is who's paying the bill. So if you're rough sleeping, it's the local council. If you're an illegal immigrant, it's the Home Office. So it's being funded differently. Hence why councils are not putting rough sleepers into hotels, is because it's coming out of their coffers and they want to spend it somewhere else. Illegal immigrants, the councils are saying, who cares? It's not our money. Just get them in hotels. So it's the wrong incentives again. And then going back to a couple of points John rose about single parent households and lack of fathers. Something like 75% of all male prisoners in this country come from fatherless homes. 75%. We're creating a conveyor belt of criminals. That doesn't mean I was raised in a single parent household. I didn't turn out to be a criminal. It's not guaranteed you will be a criminal. All I'm saying is, if you're raising children without their biological father, all you're doing is you're giving your children an extra handicap through life. You're making it harder for them. You're more likely to fail at education. You're more likely to fail in relationships. You're more likely to abandon children. You're more likely to be involved in crime. You're more likely to be involved in drugs and alcohol. Everything goes against you when you're not being raised with your biological father at home. We're damaging our own children, and that's what men and women, because this isn't just about the women, it's not just about the men. It takes two to make a baby. Some men leave and abandon women, but lots of time women kick men out and won't let them see the children. Both of those parents need to understand the only people you're hurting are your own children, your own biological children. And we need to start bringing back societal shame. We need to start shaming people to be better parents, because it's not good enough that the state steps in to be the father. Because believe me, I worked for a council for 10 years. The state does everything poorly. Why are we letting the state raise our children? Why are we letting strangers pay tax to pay for your children? Where's the personal responsibility? Where's the self-worth that you're a man, that you're going to pay for your own family and look after your own family? And then we're talking about the grooming gangs. John's perfectly right. Most of the victims of the grooming gangs, the girls, came from fatherless homes. Why did they come from fatherless homes? It's quite complicated, but let me give you a couple of easy points here. The first point is, those girls are looking for love. You know, they missed having a father. They missed that fatherly love. That's not sexual, but what do they know what fatherly love is? They've got a hole in their life. And when an older man shows them some attention and promises them things, it fills the hole left by their fathers. That's how they're groomed into that. Another point, what fathers do. Fathers teach girls the dangers of men. They teach girls how to spot a dangerous man, what's appropriate behavior, what isn't appropriate behavior, how to handle a man when you don't want attention from him, how to walk away. These are the things men teach their girls, and the girls don't get that now because there's no men in the home. And the final point is, a protector of a home is the husband, is the father. And everybody in that street, everybody in that community knows if you mess with that family, you risk violence, because there's a man who lives there. You don't know if that man's violent or not. You don't know. So therefore, you leave that family alone because there's potential for violence. When you know the natural protector of those children isn't at home, you know those children are easy meat. They have no protector. That's why they're targeted. And these are the things we need other people to understand. And that's how we need mothers and fathers to protect their children, to understand a father's needed as much as a mother's needed. It's not one or the other. You need both in the household, because they both have different jobs and they both bring different skills to the hard task of raising children.
Definitely. I was shocked when I learned about the grooming gangs that there were fathers in prison for like battering it, you know, out of somebody for doing that to their daughter, but there isn't. That just goes to show that these people have been able to get near our kids and everything like that. But the problem isn't just with the family, it's also society as a whole. I mean, police knew about it, not just the police, you know, social services knew about it. No one's been punished within the schools as well. I know someone who was a victim in Rochdale and everything, and she said that the schools knew about it, people were reporting it, the schools didn't want to know. So a lot of this is just due to society as a whole, just the way society has kind of turned out, society's kind of broke down and everything. And when these things happen, obviously our kids are obviously the victims, and everything,
Yeah.
But obviously this can be turned around. I believe we can turn it around, but we need a political solution, whether it's yourself or John or my party and everything. We all need to put our egos aside and put the kids and society first and everything to fix all of this. Yeah. How long do you
Can I just jump in there with
yeah.
2 extra points before we change that subject? So you're right. Not only did the parents of these girls let him down, services let him down, the police, the councils, children's services, and we all know why they let him down. It's because my job's more important than you as a child. I don't want to be called racist. I don't want to get sacked. I don't want my pension being affected. So I'd rather you just be gang raped. It's easier for me. We all know that story. But what we also don't understand is society let these girls down. Because as a society over my lifetime, we're continually over-sexualizing children. And it's been happening all my life. We've got girls now dressed like strippers, 7-year-old girls who look like strippers, wanting to be OnlyFans stars because they're looking up to the Kardashians. And, Kim Kardashian is a sex tape whore. That's all she is. And she's a role model now to our children, to our girls. And our girls now only see over-sexualized women all the time. And how do you become famous now? Well, you get your breasts out, you release a sex tape, you start an OnlyFans, you dress like a pole dancer. And we wonder why our children are copying this, but our girls are copying this. And then our boys are watching this. And what message are they getting? The message they're getting is all girls and all women are sexual beings and all they want is sex. And that's not true. So we're teaching our boys to be disrespectful to women by the messages society continually sends out there. Hence why one of my policies, if elected mayor, is going to be around the family. I want to strengthen the family in Greater Manchester. There'll be no services and no money coming out of the mayor's office to anybody unless they can show me how it benefits the family. Because I'm tired of the destruction. I'm tired of the feminist movement saying we don't need fathers in the home. I'm tired of the welfare state rewarding women making poor choices by not having a man in the home. I'm sick of us enabling men to walk away from their children and their wives and having no financial penalties and no social shame. All these things. I want to have power over all these things, but I can set the tone and I can set all the projects, understanding that if you want a backing from the mayor and you want money out the mayor's office, you've got to show me how what you do contributes to the structure of the family. And as mayor, I'll be organising annual family days across Greater Manchester, hopefully one in each area. We have a family day, bring families together, bring grandparents out. Grandparents are extremely important in raising children, and we forget about grandparents. I want all these things coming together where we can bring communities together, because it doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, it doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, non-binary, trans, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter. We all have families in common, and that's what brings us together, and we all want strong families, and I want to be a mayor of the family.
Good. Did you have anything to say, John? Yeah, good stuff, Nick. Honestly, good stuff. We believe in family, and one of the reasons I ran in Hollingwood was a friend's daughter, and she would say, I'm her uncle. I've known her since she was born, and there's her and a partner. They've got 2 children. They've only just managed to get a 2-bedroom house. They don't get any kind of support. They get a few hours free for the child when they're such a age, but they just don't get anything, and they find it so hard, but they're both working, and it's like that across Oldham. And that's one of the things they've done to break up our families, though, to make us not have more kids and to be less susceptible. The girls dressing up and stuff. I'm a big one like that. I don't like it either. Over-sexualizing our children. As you know, there's been the drag queen story hour protests and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's no good. And all these things are no good. And they're not good for our communities, not good for our families, not good for our girls. But I mean, again, going back to like the rape gangs, the way they was like just ignored, and political correctness. Yeah, I'm not going to lose my job because I fear of being called this. But as well within the council structure in Rotherham, there's a lot of intimidation and bullying. So some people at the bottom just wouldn't say anything because they would just lose a job and be cancelled straight away. And these people didn't know how to fight back or anything like that. I get it. I really do get that. And I've talked about these kind of things and that. And I mean, I'm getting into Oldham Council now, and honestly, Nick, you just the kind of people in the council, they're horrible. They're horrible people. Generally, I find councillors are intimidating, arrogant, bullying. I find this in the MPs as well, Nick. I do, you know, but like, there's several prominent women across Oldham who've stepped down from running as councillors and getting more involved because of threats and stuff like that. And the last woman, she was called Debbie Barrett Cole. So she's gone to Sean Fielding's street, where this is a Labour leader's street, and done a live video and just called him out on the live video. They didn't bang on his door. They didn't threaten nobody with violence. So the police turned up, they arrested her, they took her all the way to court, and then it got thrown out. The judge thrown out because it was a throw-outable. She didn't do nothing wrong, threw it out. But the police did this, put restrictions on her. So about 2 months after, I went down to that street and did a video outside the street. There was nobody coming to arrest me. No police knocked on my door. I didn't threaten anybody. I just called him out for, if you're the Labour leader and this is what you do to a woman, a middle-aged, semi-disabled woman, and this is what you do to her. This, you know, this saying, and so like, why don't you do the same for me? I wait for police. Police never came to me. You know what I mean? And that kind of bullying and is prevalent within the councils across the country. And you know, again, the girls didn't just get raped because of it was that type of person. They got raped because of all the failures in the system, the political correctness and stuff like that. Done a lot about the Charlene Downs case in Blackpool and the failures, again, broken family, failures from the council, the social services, the community as well. I always said it's her own community failed her. You know, that within a parents failed her. Everyone failed her because of all them breakdowns that you've been talking about. Got another one. You said you've worked with youth. So in 2018, my then girlfriend, Arlene, from Scotland, it was a second time in Manchester. So we've come down. It's an August evening, dead nice. So we've gone down the Canal Street, having a laugh with all the drag artists now, all just having a laugh, having pictures done, a few beers and that. And we was on our way back, headed up to Piccadilly to get a taxi. And a lad who was with us, who's done door work in Manchester, he's got off one way, so we've gone another way. We've got two lads bumped into one of our friends, started on us. There was 12 lads there by the end. We had to fight them. 3 of us got stabbed. 1 lad got stabbed in liver. Arlene witnessed all this at the same time, and so lucky that the lads or no one else started to go for her because she's only a little woman. So I had to defend myself. So I got a stab wound. 1 of the lads got stabbed in liver, another one under the arm. And so they arrested 3 lads on the night. And 1 of them had a knife and 2 of them had drugs. and age 16, 15. We couldn't say the names, obviously, because they're under the limit. But as soon as they did become 18, I did say the names on, I put the names out. But so they got put on bail because we couldn't particularly identify any particular individual. So they got put on bail. And while they were on bail, the one who had a knife got caught with a knife again. So then he got custody. He was in custody. So this is a year. Then the court case come about a year later. And the CPS were involved. And we went to court. There's quite a group of us at court because the police phoned me up the day before. John, we know what you do. You're not going to be, disruptive at court. No, I won't be. There'll be a few of us, but we won't be disruptive. And we weren't disruptive. And I remember the crime prosecution guy bringing the guy, this lad's previous conviction. And on the sheet, Nick, it might as well have been a graph showing how he's progressing in his crimes. You know what I mean? And I held the court, the court appearance was supposed to be over by dinner time. Didn't finish till the end of the day because I made sure I was shouting at the CPS guy that I want this lad on a custodial sentence because he's going to kill someone. His next crime, he's going to kill someone. And so I extended the court for like the rest of the day then and deliberate. But in the end, he just got a behavioural order. Just got a behavioural order in the end. And, you could, over a 3-year period, you could clearly see his crimes getting worse from when he started off. There was about 30 of us at court, and they all said it was so like putting off for us. The other lads who were involved, they were there, just giving us dirty looks and stuff like that. We didn't rise up to them or anything. We just wanted to get the court thing a year, and like I'm a grown person, mate, and I think I handled it pretty well. I didn't really have any comebacks off it, no fear of anything, but I can imagine somebody else who's not in my position, not my kind of person, having to deal with something like that over court and stuff like that. And it will use and it's one of the biggest things that I do on my YouTube is about youth crime, Nick. It's just out of control. There's 2 years ago, 2 teenagers, 19, 20-year-olds, were involved in gang murder in Moston, and they're from my estate where I'm running. And when I try to talk to people about it, half of them don't want to know because it's not their kids. So I impress on everyone. My last leaflet said it's the responsibility of the community as well, to make sure these things don't go wrong. Don't ignore these challenges when they come up because, we blame the system. We can blame the system, but we blame fatherless families, but we can blame it on parenting. Not saying every parent, Nick, it's not everybody. It can be parenting, but like you said, if you've not got a mum and a dad in the house, then that parent's going to struggle on their own. It's just natural that they would want it, and not every parent, but generally. And so, like, youth crime's really big for me, and there's been some really high-profile teenage murders, not just in Greater Manchester, but across the country. It's shocking. It really is shocking. But the last Bolton question time, the Bolton time before, there'd been a young lad, 16-year-old lad, stabbed by teenagers in Bury, and who died. And when Detective Chief Constable Woods, Terry Woods, he attended the and I pulled him because I'd already talked to Terry a couple of times. Said, "What are you doing?" And then there was a commander there from Bury, and she said, "Listen, we're doing stop and search. We brought the new antisocial behaviour law that the police have got. They brought that into question, and that's happened in the past few months 3 times in Oldham, Nick. That they had to bring that antisocial behaviour order in, and she said that they brought this antisocial behaviour order in, and straight away I said, so what's been the response of the kids? Because she said they went to schools, they went to certain schools and all that lot. and she said, we still found kids with knives, you know, and, you know, like, what's going on? But, you know, I get the police, I get the restrictions and all that, but I think education is a lot to do with this, to do with a lot of our youths, the stuff they're learning in school. And, you know, I you were saying about, like, the family roles and stuff like that. We don't have the discipline on our kids that we used to. When we finally got interviewed after the stabbing, it was 2 days later, and the sergeant said, we only came to you 2 days, not the day after, because the following night from your incident, there was 8 incidents the same. So knives were pulled out, people were slashed, and there was 3 sexual assaults and 2 of them were rapes. And that happened, you know, the night after in Piccadilly. Yeah. And I've heard what you've said about the Piccadilly area. So you've worked with youth. So how would you tackle this sort of thing in our youth?
Yeah. So there's 2 issues here. One's the young people and one's our criminal justice system. As mayor, there's nothing I can do about the courts and sentences and stuff like that. But what I will do is I'm going to raise this with the Home Office. I'll raise this with government, because our system's not fit for purpose. It really isn't. People think you go to jail if you've got a knife. We've never sent anyone to jail for having a knife. We're lucky to send someone to jail if they stab somebody. That's the reality of the situation in the UK. Now, young people, I've been working with young people for 2 decades on this sort of stuff. It's extremely complicated and it's going to take decades to fix. It starts off with fathers in the home. It starts off with early intervention. So the kids who stabbed you, we would have known 10 years ago when they were 5 that they were troubled. Primary school, if you speak to any primary school teacher about their class, and they will tell you who's going to be successful, who's going to be a criminal, who's going to commit suicide, who's going to be a single mum. We know that in primary school. All the signs are there with all our children. We do nothing about it until they're causing problems. It's all too late then. We need to start nipping things in the bud. We need a lot more family intervention, because the families that failed those kids have failed their other kids. And then when they have children, they're going to fail their kids. This is an intergenerational problem through some families. And we know this from the estates. No matter where you live, you always know the troubled family. You always know the family you're not going to mess with, because you know there'll be repercussions. And your dad will know the same family. Go, yeah, they were like that when I was a kid. We know who these families are. We just don't do any early intervention work with them. All we do is we lock them up. And by the time we lock them up, it's all too late, because they've left a wake of victims in their path, and they've also ruined their own life, and it's expensive. So we need to look at more intervention. But what I can do as mayor straight away is I'm going to ramp up stop and search. That's a tool we need to ramp up, but it's been politicized. It's now classed as racist. Now, how am I going to get around being called racist? It's easy. We look at every council ward, and we hold a referendum in that council ward every year at the same time as the council election, the ward election. And they will have a ballot paper saying, do you want more stop and search in your ward? And if the people who vote in that area vote for more stop and search, they get it. And then when the police are being accused of being racist, the answer is, excuse me, no. The people who live in this area democratically voted that they wanted more stop and search. And if they don't like it, next year they can vote against it at the next election next year. We take the politics out of stop and search. Now, the reason why kids carry knives is for a plethora of reasons. One's for self-defense. One is because they're criminals themselves. One is for retribution because they intend to use it on someone. Another one is for fashion. My charity has kids showing them their knives because the fashion items is a trendy thing to have. And the reason why kids are carrying knives is because they know they're not going to get stopped and searched. They don't know anybody who's been stopped and searched. And then when we do catch somebody eventually with a knife, we don't tell anybody. I would leaflet that school. I would leaflet the local area. James Bloggs has been stopped, 15 years old, stopped with a knife. He's now being prosecuted. I would leaflet the area so every parent and every kid goes, oh, I'm not carrying a knife because they're stopping people. Look what happened to John Blogs. So advertise it. It's about telling the community what you're doing. And then looking at crime and antisocial behaviour in general. I've knocked on thousands of doors when I worked for the council asking, what are your priorities for the police? Surprisingly, no one ever said to me terrorism. No one ever said to me bank robbers. No one ever said to me hurty words online. The three things people used to say to me over tens of thousands of doors my team knocked on, the things people would say to me is youths causing antisocial behaviour, littering in my area because the place looks a mess, and dog poo. They were the three top priorities. No matter what area we knocked on doors, they were the priorities. Now, I don't want the police going around fining owners of dogs. That's a council job. It's not a police job. But tackling youth-related antisocial behaviour, kids drinking in parks, taking drugs, smoking cannabis, damaging cars, all that so-called low-level antisocial behaviour ruins people's community of lives. It ruins people's quality of lives because it's every day. It doesn't stop and no one takes it seriously, but it ruins your life. It ruins your community where you live. It then becomes a failing neighbourhood because of all the youth-related antisocial behaviour. And then once you see that, other people say, oh, I could commit crime here because no one cares about this area. Look at all the litter, look at all the broken windows, look at the kids drinking in the park. I can commit crime here because no one cares. It sends out the wrong signal. We need to start intervening with those young people when they're causing problems. And we don't have to wait for evidence. I ran a project called Youth Intervention Project for Manchester, and it was highly successful. What we do is when we start seeing kids engaged in low-level antisocial behaviour, we speak to their parents. And we say to the parents, did you know we stopped your child drinking in the park? Or did you know your child was sat with people smoking cannabis in the park? He wasn't smoking cannabis himself, but he was sat with people who were. And I'm giving you this information because you're his parent. What you do with that information is up to you. But how can we expect people to be better parents if we're not giving them the information for them to act on to be better parents? I want to put a lot more responsibility back onto parents because the state isn't a parent and it'll be a bloody poor parent when it tries to be one. So it's about enhancing that personal responsibility and holding people to account more. That's how we start tackling some of those issues. We don't need any more laws. Do you know how much law there is on antisocial behaviour? Do you know that we can evict you from your house and your whole family if you don't stop committing antisocial behaviour? Do you know that if we fine you, we can put that, if you own your house or your parents own your house, we can put the bill on the house. So if you ever sell it, the council gets the money automatically. There's that much law out there. What we haven't got are council teams, police teams with knowledge or the backbone to actually enforce the laws that are on the books. So when people tell you there's no law against that or there's nothing we can do, like climbing on the statues in London with a Free Palestine march, believe me, there's half a dozen laws to arrest those people, but people haven't got the backbone. And that's what I want to bring back to Greater Manchester, to the police, and force the councils to do their jobs better. That's what I'll be doing.
Oh, my Lord, honestly, Nick.
It sounds good. It sounds good. But I had a couple of things to say. So one is just my personal view, and I think you two gentlemen will agree with me. Part of the problem is, I know this is above yourself, even if you became mayor, is you can't smack your child anymore and stuff. I think, I'm not being funny, something...
You can smack your own child. You can still smack your own child in England.
Oh, okay. That's what my parents did with me.
They can still give you grief over it.
Yeah. Well,
it's illegal in Scotland. I think it's illegal in Wales, but you can still smack your child in England.
Oh, okay. Well, I think parents need to do that a bit more. It never done me any harm. I wasn't abused by my family just because I got a smack on the arm or whatever when I done something wrong. And another thing I was going to ask you, is it called ASBOs? Is that what it's called? Sorry, like the antisocial behavior scheme, what Labour kind of, but would you use that kind of thing? Do you know?
Yeah, they're called something different now. They're
okay.
they're called criminal orders. So ASBOs themselves have gone, but they replaced them with something else. Yes, the councils can use them, should be using them. But we've got to a stage now where we treat offenders as if they're victims. Now, someone told me a really good little funny story the other day, and it's like 3 socialists and 2 woke idiots are walking down the street, and they see a victim of a mugging, and the guy's lying in the gutter, and he's had 10 bells kicked out of him, and he's bleeding everywhere. And the 3 socialists and 2 wokesters go up to him and go, "Wow, Jesus, are you okay? What's gone on here?" And he tells them, "I've been beat up by somebody." And they go, "We need to find that person and help him." That's how we treat victims now, that's how we treat offenders, as if they're victims. They're not victims, they're criminals, and criminals need hammering. That's what we do with criminals. So we need to use those criminal orders to control their behavior, to control where they are, where they go. We need to stop and search. We need to lock people up. We need to socially shame them by telling their communities. We need to punish their parents as well. If their children going, "This isn't good enough as a parent," and you live in a house, you live in a council house, you live in a housing association house. If this continues, we're going to evict you, because in your tenancy agreement, no one who lives or visits your property is allowed to commit antisocial behaviour in the neighbourhood. We'll evict you, and you'll have to start your life somewhere else. And that will be a punishment for you for not controlling your children. And other people who live in the area will go, "Jesus, they can evict you. I better start bringing my children up a little bit better because I don't want to be evicted." And we say to the 15-year-old who's causing problems, "This is the road you're going down. And when we evict you, that's going to affect your 6-year-old sister. Do you love your sister? Because she gets evicted with you. And it's your fault when she gets evicted, when she has to leave her school because she has to move areas to get another house. You're going to destroy your sister. Is that what you want?" And we put responsibility back on the people who are causing problems for their communities. It's like, this is down to you. This is your fault. This is the path you're going down. And we're going to hammer you. We need some balls. And we don't enforce these things for the sake of enforcing it, just so I come across big and tough. We do this because I want to protect the law-abiding citizens who live next door to these people. Why should they be punished? Why should they have a worse life? Because their next door neighbours are dysfunctional and are selling drugs and having drug parties till 5 a.m. and they get no sleep and they're working. Why should they suffer? I want to stand here and be a force for the law-abiding people in Greater Manchester, and they're the vast majority of people. But no one speaks up for them anymore now because we're too busy treating offenders and criminals as if they're victims. Are you okay? It's not your fault. It's because you've been brought up by a single mum. Oh, I feel sorry for you. It's because you live on a council estate. I feel sorry for you. You've got ADHD. I feel sorry for you. You don't see your dad. I feel sorry. No, I don't feel sorry for you. Change your behaviour. We're going to hammer you. That's the message I want to be giving to people who are ruining other people's lives in Greater Manchester. There's going to be no more pink and fluffy policing if I'm in charge.
I totally agree. I mean, even when I was homeless, I never stole or anything. I went to a food bank.
By the way, Marcus.
Yeah. Just quickly, I never stole when I was homeless, or I didn't have any money. I went to a food bank. You choose to do what you want to do in life and everything. You know, I grew up on a council estate, what was quite rough. You know, Oldham isn't brilliant and stuff. You choose what you want to do. You can either be a knobhead or you can be a good person. It's
exactly. And I'm sick of people telling me the cause of crime is poverty. Poverty has nothing to do with being a criminal, because if it did, all poor people would be criminals. So when you say being poor makes criminals, you're basically giving that criminal an excuse, and you're insulting law-abiding poor people because they're not criminals.
Yeah, they're the backbone of this country.
Yes,
anyway, I think we're now about to wrap up. Well, it was really nice having you on, Nick. Quick question, because someone did ask it in the chat. How likely do you think you are to win the mayor election?
At this moment in time, unlikely. I'm still an underdog. I'm still unknown. But election season hasn't started yet, so no one's really paying any attention. I need two things to happen to give me a chance of winning. I need an injection of money, because running campaigns costs money. I'm funding what I can at the moment myself. I've taken a year off work. I'm working on this full time. But I need an injection of money, and I need some luck. I need some luck my way. I need Andy Burnham to make a mistake. I need something that none of us can think of to happen that raises my profile. We all need luck in life. So I need some luck and I need some money. But people who are watching this, if you want to help, if you like what I'm saying, what I'd like you to do is follow me on social media. I'm on all the channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on all of it. Find me at Nick Buckley MBE. And I'd like you to share my posts. Talk to your family and friends about me and my policies, because they will believe you more than hearing me on Facebook. You need to say, I like this guy. Look what he's talking about. That's the sort of guy I want for mayor. If I can develop some sort of grassroots movement where the people who are normally ignored start talking about me and will vote for me to spite the main parties, because I'm an independent. I'm not connected to anybody. What I say I will do. There's no strings, there's no bosses above me. But I need you. I need you to want change. I need you to fight my corner. I need you to tell your family, friends, your neighbours. If you can't be asked doing that, I have no chance of winning, and you'll just get more of the same. So you take some responsibility to help me win. You take some responsibility as well.
Oh, thank you, Nick,
for coming on. We wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you much, and feel free to invite me on again next year, and I can update you where I am and what's going on.
Definitely. We put your Twitter link in and your website links in the chat. So anybody there, please get onto Nick's stuff. He's also on TikTok. Does some really good informative videos. We never even got round to CAS tax and integration, but we'll get them next time. But so follow his links. Debbie Barrett Cole. Good evening, Debbie. I hope you're well. And follow his links. And a few people who vote for me have already mentioned you. Who's this Nick Buckley? They've said, and I've just said vote for him. We need to vote for Nick and not for any mainstream party in candidate for the mayoral elections. We can't. I mean, I was looking at Tracy Braden in Yorkshire. She's got no experience with police or anything, just like Andy Burnham. You know what I mean? And they're in the wrong place. But thank you very much, Nick. Thank you very much. It's been well good. I know you've said a lot of things. Everybody in my chat likes you. I haven't seen one negative comment, and I've got quite a bit of a following in that chat. I've not seen one negative comment, so that's good. But,
good. Well, thank you for the invite. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you both. It's been good fun.
Likewise. Thank you.